So you've decided today is the day. Today is the day that you finally switch from auto mode. You've dreamed about this. This is your moment. But wait, what the heck is an ISO and a double S1/60th? So today we're going to go over some of the basics of manual mode and how you can use them to help level up your smartphone photography. So in photography, there's basically this thing called the exposure triangle. And what it is the 3 points that really help make up what determines how bright your image comes out. The 3 points are ISO, shutter speed, and aperture. So many photographers will say that ISO doesn't technically count as something that determines exposure since it's not physically changing the amount of light that comes into the sensor, but for the purpose of this video, we're going to go with this structure here. So the most important point for us is learning how to master ISO and shutter speed. Aperture doesn't really matter as much because on the majority of smartphones, there is no changeable aperture, with the Xperia Pro I being a notable difference. So at the end of the day, the question will come down to how can we balance ISO and shutter speed to achieve our desired results. Now, I'm not saying that auto mode is bad. As a matter of fact, I prefer to use auto mode in a lot of situations, but in order to take control of our photography, we're gonna need to learn how to use the tools given to us. So the first thing we're gonna wanna do is come up here and change our mode to manual, which is this M right here. And once we do that, we see a lot more options open up. The first we're going to focus on is ISO, which stands for, well, absolutely nothing. Basically, back in the film days, your film set your ISO, and now digital sensors can adjust this digitally. The lower your ISO value, the less artificial gain is introduced to the photo to raise the overall exposure. And we can see as we raise this value right here, it becomes a lot brighter. Every camera has a max limit. In our case with the 1.4, it is 6400. Now, the higher the ISO goes, the more noise or grain is introduced. Let's compare a photo at ISO 64 and 6400. So jumping right in here, we can really see how much processing the phone tried to do with the 6400 photo. It has basically just become an unusable fuzzy mess. In comparison to the ISO 64 is just a normal great looking shot. But yeah, basically look anywhere in the photo on the 6400 and you can see just a huge amount of color noise, fuzziness, general noise. It's just not a good time even in such bright conditions. Taking a look at the RAWs here, we can see there's not really any processing going on, and we can see just how noisy the ISO 6400 photo is. It is just an absolute mess. Every camera performs differently at various ISOs, and everyone has their own tolerance level for noise in their photos, so be sure to experiment on your own in various lighting conditions to see what's acceptable for you. The darker or less light there is, the more apparent this high ISO noise tends to become. The next point that we're going to take a look at is shutter speed. This is the amount of time that we are allowing light to hit the sensor. On the 1.4, we have a shutter speed range of 30 seconds, all the way down to 1/8000th of a second. This means that the sensor can capture the scene for 30 whole seconds, or just a tiny fraction of a second. In my opinion, this is much more important than ISO, as it can mean the difference between freezing the action or your subject becoming a blur. Let's take a look here. So if we set our shutter speed to about 1/3 or 1/4 of a second, and let's snap, we can see that the vehicles here and any birds in the shot are now just a blur. But if we increase our shutter speed, and I have a variable ND on here right now to make this possible during the day, if we increase our shutter speed to something like 1/60th, we can see that they are much more frozen and in focus. And look at this little bird here. Look at this, oh my gosh, I've attracted a crowd. I've made a lot of friends. We got a wacky hairdo going on. All right, see you guys. The final point of our triangle is aperture. This is kind of like the pupil of the human eye. The more open it is, the more light comes in. This is often represented as an f-stop. Some common values you might hear are f2, f2.8, f4, f5.6, etc. The smaller the number, the more wide open your aperture or your pupil is, letting in more light. Opening to the smallest value of your lens is often referred to as shooting wide open. Closing down your aperture or increasing your f-stop number is often called stopping down. The wider your aperture, the shallower your plane of focus or depth of field is, so shooting, for example, at something like f1.8, the kind of plane would be probably about as wide as my hand width right here, and it would move something like this. In this case, I have eye tracking on, so my plane is probably right about even with my eye. You can see if I move my hand a little bit, it is completely out of focus, and the more I bring it in turn with my eye, the more in focus it should be. Same if I move it back, you can see it just kind of blurs into oblivion in the background. For the purpose of this video, we'll stop right here since most smartphones, as mentioned earlier, don't have variable apertures except for the Pro Eye. In the case of the One 4, it is labeled as an f1.7 aperture, although this is not equivalent in full frame terms. For example, this is not equivalent to a 1.8 full frame lens. The actual equivalent for the One 4 is closer to around f14, which is why smartphones are unable to get the same kind of separation, subject separation, that bigger cameras are able to get. Sensor size also plays a big factor into this. So, what do you do now? Well, you go out and you shoot. That is the only way that we can get better. Take photos of everything you can and then some more. Practice is the key to becoming more familiar with these kinds of settings. Speaking of, there were a lot of settings that I did not cover in this video. If I should do a more in-depth video, please do let me know down in the comments below. And I also apologize for my voice. Allergies have hit me like an absolute truck as of recently, so yes. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope you found this video fun and helpful, and if you did, a like and a sub would really help me out and I would really appreciate it. If you haven't already, be sure to check out my new playlist that I started with all of my Xperia street photography videos. I hope to keep adding to that over the years, so hopefully there will be a nice big catalog of those eventually. And yeah, thank you again. I hope you have a great day and happy shooting.